we're going to tag team this, myself and Sally and Ginny. So in honor of Sally's knee, which doesn't allow her to stand, we're all going to sit here and do this. And
I can't stand, but just not for like a long time.
Not for long, right?
I did walk in here.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Okay, so I'm going to get started here. Let me give you. Okay. So bluebirds, they are a true conservation success story. Y'all may remember, most of us are old enough to remember some of the alarms that went off, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 years ago that the bluebirds were in such great decline. They declined actually 90%. They were headed toward extinction. And the things that were driving this were competition for nesting territories with non-native species. They're cavity nesters, along with sparrows and starlings, certain types of sparrows that are more aggressive than the bluebirds. So they would compete for the same nesting spaces. These cavity nesting birds don't have the ability to make their own cavities. They leverage cavities that woodpeckers, for example, would make in trees, and the bluebirds were being out-competed for those limited spaces. And one of the reasons that the spaces were limited was because land management practices had shifted to the removal of a lot of snags, and a snag is a standing dead tree. And they, y'all, if you've been here before, you've heard me preach on the benefit of snags. They really provide for the habitat for bluebirds. As the trees degrade, the cavities are made, and the woodpeckers get into the insects that are more prevalent in a snag. And when we remove those from the environment, that was also removing nesting opportunities for bluebirds. Also, widespread pesticide use, it kills insects, and that's what they live on. So their food source was being killed or poisoned. And outdoor cats were also part of the decline of bluebirds. Outdoor cats, I heard an interesting statistic just this morning that every outdoor cat kills between 24 and 36 birds every year. And they're often the younger birds, the fledglings that don't yet have the skills to escape. So,
Dara, that is not a bluebird, by the way. That is a European robin.
oh, well.
That was
Sorry.
That was given to us.
Really great bird. I love them.
Okay, so pay no attention to this European robin up here on the screen. Hopefully all of the other pictures we have are actually of bluebirds. Okay, I should have run this by you first. All right.
This one looks like this.
Okay. Oh, boy. All right. How about that one? How about that one, Paige? There we go. The people sprung into action and with an awareness of what was happening with the bluebird decline. The North American Bluebird Society was formed with a real emphasis on bluebird trails and nesting boxes and creating other nesting opportunities for bluebirds, and it just really took off. And that, together with pesticide controls and just an awareness of what the bluebird needs, really turned this around. And as of now, bluebirds are of low conservation concern. So they truly rebounded. These efforts made a difference, and I think they're a great example of what people can do with wildlife when there's knowledge of what to do and people care about it. So Bluebird Trails, so this is kind of, tried to turn it sideways to get it to fit. Okay, so this is the front 9. Right, on our golf course, which is our bluebird houses. They're not exclusively on the golf course, but many of them on the Bluebird Trail that we're talking about today are on the golf course. And there's 2 boxes at the dam. And so they are like on the 9th green and the 9th fairway, the 3rd tee box. And so if you walk the golf course or you play the golf course, these are the the spots to look for them, because they do. So many people have said, well, gosh, I've never noticed them, or I've been out there and I just didn't see them. So they kind of blend in with the environment. So that's where they're located. And here are the other ones, a lot of them on the 18th green and fairway. And there's an example of what you're looking for, what they look like out on the golf course. So today we're going to hear from what we call the bent tree benefactors for the Bluebird Trail, and that's Sally and her husband Jerry. Raise your hand, Jerry, right up here on the front row. I'm going to start by reading. There was an article in the Echo in August of 2019, and this describes a lot of the history of how Sally and Jerry came to be involved in this. A Bluebird Trail is a series of nest boxes spaced at least 300 feet apart. We have a Bluebird Trail in Bent Tree. Since my husband Jerry and I discovered the abandoned trail in 2013, okay, so this was written in 2019. They started maintaining the Bluebird Trail in 2013. Since through that 6-year period, almost 700 birds have fledged from these nest boxes. There are currently 20 nest boxes on the trail, 17 of which are on the golf course. Another one is located at their home, and 2 are at the dam. This all began in early 2013 after I read the daily post from my friend Edie Stevens' website. She stated that there were many nest boxes on the golf course full to the top with bird nest debris. Sally had walked the golf course every morning for years and had never noticed them. So the next day, Sally and Jerry set out to find and examine the nest boxes. They found all of the boxes were unusable. They were bad shape, in need of cleaning, repairing, sanding, caulking, staining, painting. Many needed to be replaced. This trail had been abandoned. And we've tried to figure out, just as an aside, like where it came from, who started it originally. If anybody knows, let me know, because we haven't been able to figure out where or who put these up in the first place. Probably in the early 2000s, we would guess.
Even in the 90s, maybe.
Or even in the 1990s, we don't know. Jerry repaired some nest boxes in place and brought others to his house so they could begin to be restored. 11 new boxes were constructed, and Sally set out to learn what to do to bring the Bluebird Trail back to life. Very soon the birds returned, primarily bluebirds and a lesser number of chickadees. Sally said she monitors each nest box twice weekly, early in the morning, before the golfers begin to play. And that's pretty early. The season is March through August. Monitoring consists of keeping a log of what kind of bird is occupying each box, when eggs are laid, how many were laid, when they hatched, and when the birds fledged. Bluebirds tolerate monitoring very well, although she was dive bombed occasionally. She opens the boxes, takes a quick peek, doesn't handle the birds. Monitoring only takes a minute, but can save the lives of birds that we have invited to nest in these boxes. There are many reasons to monitor your nest box, and we're going to go over them later in this presentation. During the off-season, Jerry prepares the nest boxes for the next year. They try to increase the number of fledglings each year by keeping the nest boxes clean and safe. Jerry constructed and added what are called Noel guards to stop raccoons or cats from getting into the boxes. The wire mesh guard attaches to the front of the nest box. Bluebirds can build 3 nests in a season, so it's very important to clean out old nests. Sally said that she's cleaned out a box and then has noticed a bluebird building another nest within the hour. They will start over and rebuild their nest. Monitoring a Bluebird Trail has been a true labor of love, and they look forward to it every year. It is rewarding to know that they're really making a difference. Spring comes, nests are built, eggs are laid, and the life they contain bursts out, and they get to witness it all. All right, so that's a little bit of the history of the Bluebird Trail.
There's that other bird.
Is that the other bird?
Yeah,
Ah, okay.
it's a bluebird.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Sally now, who's going to talk through some of these pictures and or other comments that she wants to make about her efforts with the Bluebird Trail over the past, what now, dozen years or more?
14.
14 years.
Coming up on 14 years. These are pictures here. The first one there is the golf cart. Jerry has done some sort of repair to those boxes in the back. He's getting ready to go out and put them back where they go. And also there's a post there on the top that needs to be replaced.
So if you see people out on the golf course with all of these, they're not stealing them. They're taking them home to get repaired.
So here we do have, that is a chickadee.
Yes, that is a chickadee, right, Paige? Thank you.
What kind of chickadee?
Black cat.
Ca-
Black cat, that's
Say
black cat.
Carolina. Okay.
And that's just what its nest looks like. It's made out of a mossy material with, I don't know where it always gets this cotton stuff, but it always manages to find it.
So that's what a chickadee nest would look like as opposed to the, okay, so we're going to make sure you speak into that, Sally. They really want to hear what you're saying.
This is the monitoring form where I take my phone out with me every time I go and I just note what I see when I look into each nest box. And then when I get home, I transfer the info over to this form. I have a form for each box.
Is it? This is amazing to me that this has been kept up for 14 years. The date, the species, whether it's bluebirds or chickadees. If you have an empty box, a partial nest, a complete nest, how many eggs, how many young, the days, the number that fledged, and all of these comments. This is what's allowed Sally to have so much information about how many have fledged and really keep up with what's going on out there so that adjustments can be made. It's very impressive.
So here we have some nestlings.
Wow, it's quite a few.
I believe there's 6 in the one there
Those look like
on the
a
left.
couple days.
And then you have some bluebirds just hatching.
I'm not going to.
Yeah, aren't they? Let's see.
Look at them. Yeah, look at them. Okay.
I like to watch the way they move, the little ones. You know, they're just so helpless when they're first hatched.
Sort of like hairy shrimp is what I say.
Little hairy shrimp.
Hairy shrimp.
Hairy shrimp. Okay.
So we do have about 100 birds a year, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, depending on what we encounter. And last year we had a few problems, and Jenny was out with me. Was that the first time?
Yes.
And I mean, I had only seen one bumblebee in 13 years, and we saw the second one when Jenny went out with me on her first trip out there last year. And so we had to get that thing out of there. That was probably interesting watching us dragging that nest out of there, chasing that bumblebee around. And we did put the nest back in, but the chickadee did not return. So we, luckily she had not laid any eggs in there, but we had a potential of 6 to 7 birds in there. So the next time when I came by here, we put the nest back in, hoping she'd come back. She did not. What did come back was a bluebird put its nest on top of that. And so a couple of times later when I came by, she had laid some eggs. And then we had some other predator come by after that got in and disturbed those eggs. And so at that time, I just closed it. Something was coming around, and I didn't want any deaths. So it's better to just that bird was probably not going to go back in there after her eggs had been disturbed. So, no, it wasn't a snake, because a snake would have probably eaten it. Many other things might have. It was just disturbed. I mean, it could have been a house sparrow or something. I don't know, but I closed it. It's still closed. We won't use that box this year. So these are some of the things that you can run into, and it's most likely you're not going to. Most likely your nest is going to start and go through completion and the birds will fledge. But sometimes, well, you are going to get wasps. That I see every year. So, and I probably have to kill about, I would say, 10 wasps a year. Because if the wasp gets in there, you're not going to get, most likely, a bird. I've seen it, but it's not often. Ants, that does happen. We had ants crawl up one box and kill everybody inside. That happened one time. And then last year we saw, that wasn't just the only bumblebee that we saw with Jenny there. I saw 2 others. So in 12 years, I had seen 1 bumblebee, and then I saw 3 last year. So I know they're good pollinators, but I don't like them to go in there and it's not a bumblebee trail; it's a bluebird trail. That's what I say.
That's right.
So sorry, you're going, and so are the wasps. Saw blowflies only once. Bears, that can happen. I've had 2 posts knocked over from bears. The thing on the front there does stop the raccoons. Yeah, and cats, because the cats will try and get, and also that does stop any of the hawks that might be able to possibly reach in, so that stops them also. We did open a box one time. Jerry was with me and saw a flying squirrel looking right back at us. So we just left him there and went on. But now, yeah, Jenny, you did lose your house last year, didn't you, with the bear?
I'll get into that.
She's on a bear trail. Sometimes you do have parents disappear, and when I check on the box, there'll just be 5 dead babies in there. They have 24 hours. If they're not fed during that time, they're going to die. So something maybe got the parents, a hawk or something, but that doesn't happen often. Snakes, only 2 times. We did have 1 snake last year.
Well, Sally, you told me such an interesting story about the adoption. Didn't you move a bird one time? From one nest
that
to
was
another?
With the snake. Luckily, Jerry was with me when that happened. And he's not with me very often. So, because when I go to open the box, I just open it quickly, just a tiny bit, and peek in there.
Uh-huh.
And I could see the snake skin in there. And so I thought, I don't like this. So, Jerry, you better get over here. And so I knew what was in there because I keep track of it every time I visit. So I knew there were 5 birds about ready to fledge. And so he got the snake out. And of course, we didn't kill him or anything. Maybe we should have moved him. I think that's what you need to do is move the snake because he will come back. We didn't. We just left him there. And
But you moved one of the birds?
I did. When we knew there were 5 adult birds and they're almost ready to fledge. And actually, I didn't expect them to even be there. I expected them to be gone. I didn't expect, of course, the snake. But when we pulled the snake out, we could see there were supposed to be 5, birds that were getting ready to leave. And so there were 3 that were gone. And there was one that had been smothered underneath the snake. And there was still one that was alive in the back. So it couldn't have been too long. I think the snake must have just come that night. Otherwise, if it had been too long, that little baby in the back would have been dead. And so I had to decide there. I didn't know what happened with the parents. Should I leave the bird there, or was there something else I could do? So I knew I had another house on the front 9 that had birds this age. So I just took that 1 bird, took him over to the front 9 and put him in that house. And he did fledge with everybody else.
So, yeah, isn't that great? I never knew that they will.
They don't care. They don't. That's why you have cowbirds that can go in there. They don't look at them and say, "You don't look like the rest of my babies." they just feed everybody. And now the other snake that we had last year when we got there, again, Jerry was there with me, luckily, and we got the snake out. And as soon as he opened the box, 2 flew out. So those 2 survived. So there were 3 that were in there that the snake managed to get. And, it is, this is a good way to keep the snakes. Well, this is not going to keep the snakes out. If you put a baffle on the post or on the pole, really, is what is recommended. We were doing many, many houses, so we didn't have the hundreds of dollars that it probably would have taken to remove all of those wooden posts and replace them with a metal pole and the baffle. So this was the next best thing, and since we've only had, I think, just the 2 encounters with a snake, I think it's been all right. We haven't lost too many. Maybe we've lost 7 birds.
All right. Those are some of the pictures. That's the wasp, right?
This is what can happen if you leave a wasp in there. And your bluebird or bird chickadee is not going to come in there to nest. It's one or the other. So, typically I come around every couple of days, so I get them out of there. We don't ever have anything like this happen. And then the other one over here is what a squirrel will do. And that's early on, before we put the knoll guard like that. He's not going to do that with that on there. Neither is a raccoon. Raccoon cannot reach in there and get any of the nestlings or any of the birds of prey. They can't either. So that stops a number of things.
All right. We are going to, thank you, Sally. We're going to move to Jenny talking about when she rode along with Sally on her monitoring, and then we'll talk about some other interesting bluebird facts. Take it away, Jenny.
Okay, I'm Ginny Balfour, and I'm going to start with, in the turn of the century in 2000, I had ACL surgery, so I spent probably 2 weeks home recuperating, and I looked in the large picture window, and there was a flash of light blue, and I was like, that's not a blue jay, what is that? So it was a bluebird, and so that began my passion in suburbia, Snellville, my passion of learning and loving bluebirds. And then we moved 3 years ago to Bentry, and I had quite a love story with these bluebirds the 23 years I was in Snellville, and put up 2 bluebird boxes, and they had the door that you could slide up to help monitor that you saw in the pictures. And it was just such an education for the kids in the neighborhood. With my assistance, they could watch go from an empty nest to eggs to bluebirds and fledging out. It was just quite a love story. So when we moved up here 3 years ago, I was like, I am not going to put out any bird feeders because of the bear situation. At some point, I'm going to put up a bluebird house. So I met Dara, and she said, I told her about my passion. She said, you have got to meet Sally Dye. Got to meet her. And I was walking, I didn't go out and intentionally find you. I was walking my dog at Sally Doss, and I saw this woman in her golf cart checking a bluebird house right there, and she thought I must have been crazy because I was like, come on, Raylan, let's go. And we're running up the hill, like, Sally. So I got to meet Sally Dye. So in talking to her in that short conversation, we exchanged phone numbers, and she gave me the invite to ride along with her, and I was so excited. And it gave me an opportunity to learn more about monitoring, which I thought I was monitoring, but I wasn't monitoring compared to what Sally does. And Roger, Jerry, I called him Roger a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, okay. So I rode last summer with her about 6 or 7 times. One of the times I had my granddaughter with me, and we just saw all kinds of things, not only learning about the bluebirds, but we saw piebald squirrels, we saw turkeys, gaggles of turkeys. So when my schedule allowed, I did ride around with Sally, and I learned how she and Jerry tend the boxes year-round, learned the process for tending those boxes, which included this arsenal of tools that she keeps in her golf cart to, squish that bumblebee without getting harmed, to pull things out, and it was just amazing.
Did I
and
a bumblebee?
Yes. I think it was a wasp.
A wasp. Okay.
But anyway, she's just very attention to detail with the monitoring dates and her paper. Well, she doesn't carry her paper with her, but she, records everything in her phone, counting the eggs, live babies, dead babies, fledglings, and the overall condition of the boxes. Okay, slide 2, or my next slide,
Yeah.
is going to show like the cycle of the bluebirds. The first thing that happens, and we have about 1 or 2 more weeks here before these mom and dad, soon to be mom and dad, are going to pick the site. Dad finds the site, and he's got very much attention to detail. He prefers a scouting position, which he positions himself on top of that box, and he wants to be able to look all the way around and check for predators. But you know who has the final decision? Mama.
Does.
They do prefer a slightly open area. They won't find a hole if they can, in the middle of the forest, because there's just too many places for predators to hide. So mom has the final selection. She builds the nest, and what's so unique to the bluebirds is it's pine straw. As soon as you see those pieces of pine straw coming out of the nest, you know you've got one. And it's just such an exciting feeling. Usually within a week of the nest building, she's dropping eggs, at least 1 egg a day, from 3 to 5 eggs total. The incubation period is 12 to 14 days, so around 2 weeks. And they over 24 to 48 hours, those 3 to 5 eggs, they're all hatched. The chicks are fed by both the parents, and then about 16 to 22 days later, the birds are ready to fledge. Mom and dad stick around for a week to check on those fledglings, and there's a picture that I got on my deck in Snellville. We'll see it a couple of pictures from now, of, I believe it's dad feeding the fledgling on the deck.
There it is.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yep. That's a fledgling. They're light blue. They have spots. They don't exactly look like their mom and dad right away. Let's see. So they do, in Snellville, I was getting 1 to 2 broods a year, which would be like March, April, around June, and they can go in August, but I think Sally mentioned that heat can become a factor for that third brood. All right, so I guess we're on the next slide for keeping a bluebird box in bent tree. And I'm just speaking from, I have a horrible experience this past year. If you are on a bear path, bear trail, I would not recommend putting up a box. I did put up a box this past last year, and within a month of putting it up, I put it up around December. By middle of February, I started seeing that dad on top of the box, and I was like, okay, we're getting close. They chose the box, they built the nest, and sometime in March, mid to late March, there were babies, and I was monitoring, not like Sally does, but I was monitoring every day, checking. And I had positioned a camera to watch wildlife in my backyard, and I was checking the film one morning, and the bluebird pole was going back and forth, and then it slammed on the ground. And I went up to inspect that morning, and the bear had done this and taken a side panel, ripped it open, and taken and eaten all the birds inside. So it doesn't discourage people who aren't. I would encourage people who aren't on a bear trail to put up bluebird houses, and you have about a couple of weeks left for this year, because they are the early rising birds that they're the first birds that will indicate spring is coming, because they're putting their nests up soon. If you do have a bluebird box, you want to make sure it's not on a tree, not too high, not too low. I would encourage you to get one that you can monitor, and it'll be like a little screw or a nail that you can pop open and slide up or slide down the panel to do your monitoring. Front guards are recommended to minimize their threats. most important and emphasis is on monitoring, and finding issues and correct early. Consider the location of the box. When they fledge, the birds have a place to shelter, grass or shrubs to go into. Cannot emphasize enough, now is the time to get your boxes out. The next picture is one that Sally, I believe, got of the fledglings. Those are all fledglings.
That came from Edie.
Oh, Edie, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next slide is some of the resources that are available. If you're not going to put a Bluebird box up, at least the very minimum, like today, Cornell University has been has a huge ornithology department, and for 40 years they've been doing the big backyard count, and it's next weekend. It's the 12th, 13th, 14th. But we can do it. We, as everybody all over the world, can monitor birds. They have an app called the Merlin ID app, and it's put out by Cornell. It's free, and it's got a very high-tech audio part of it, and it is listening to all the bird sounds. And it will identify the bird sounds and give you what bird is there in your trees. And then you can say, okay, this is a bird in my backyard, count. Where are you located? Jasper, Georgia. Personally, I don't do that until I see that bird. I mean, you're relying on the technology to make the audio identification, but if I see the bird, then I count them.
And I use it a little bit differently in that, because I'm not as skilled at finding the birds in the trees. So it'll, when it first thinks it hears a bird, it'll say, pine warbler. And then when it hears it again, that particular bird lights up again. So I wait. If it only thinks it hears it once, I won't count that. But after 5 or 7 times, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go with that, because I'll probably won't be able to find the birds in the trees. Personally, I'm not good at that. So I wait for it to reinforce that that it lights up on that one bird repeatedly, and then I go, okay, I'm going to have faith that that's really that bird.
Yep. And then the second resource that I found out from Sally is this Cialis, and it's not the drug Cialis, which is tadalafil. It's a tremendous resource on bluebirds. They have some great articles. You'll learn a lot about the bluebirds. And I found this one funny article on, like, you're a bluebirder when you consider the bluebirds the true harbingers of spring. Forget about the robins. The first egg always brings a smile to your face. You watch the bluebird box instead of the boob tube. But anyway, it's just, you roll your eyes when and I did this all the time the first 5 years of learning about bluebirds, when people refer to blue jays as bluebirds. That's a dig. But anyway, the last picture was a picture of my deck and the fledgling and the dad.
And I will say, this website right here, if you're looking for resources on bluebirds, there's so much out there. And even from retailers or people trying to sell you their version of the bluebird box and their bluebird feeder, their bluebird food. And some of it is contradictory to things that you could read other places. So really look for this authoritative source on bluebirds. Especially with somebody who's trying to sell you something, go to this. And Cialis is the Latin word for the, genus of the bird. So go there for your information. It'll be most reliable. And I'm going to end with always my connection back to habitat, right? Bluebirds will eat from feeders. They will eat seeds, but they don't feed seeds to their young. Most young birds, with a few exceptions, can't eat seeds. They need insects, right? And so you can put mealworms on your feeders if you want to attract the bluebirds most consistently. But the biggest thing that you can do in support of bluebirds, baby bluebirds, is to allow insects in your yard. And that means what? Native plants, that means no pesticide, those are the kinds of things that you do to ensure that there's enough insects in your yard to support the bluebird babies. And then I'm going to end with, this, so Sally and Jerry, I really appreciate y'all coming here and sharing this. But Sally and Jerry have not worked under Lake and Wildlife, if you will, for these 14 years. They did this as a personal passion. And I would like to encourage everybody to find their way of supporting nature within Bent Tree. And it doesn't, of course, we love volunteers within Lake and Wildlife, and we need people to do things. But if you've got a passion, don't. If there's not an official program for it, or there's some benefits to being through Lake and Wildlife, or at least connected with Lake and Wildlife. We get to count your volunteer hours, and that helps BTCI overall. We can sometimes connect you to other activities going on that are related, or other people who share your passion. So those connections can be made. Through Lake and Wildlife, facilities usage is smoother in terms of having meetings or needing a space to do something. And also with dollar support. So Sally mentioned that one of the reasons they didn't do certain things with the houses is because the expense associated with it. Well, this year, Lake and Wildlife is covering expenses for them to restore many of the houses that you need to turn in your receipts. So that is why we do Tamarack Treasures and the Hanging Basket Sales, to raise the money to support of these types of efforts. And so connecting in with some financial support. But there's so many ways to support nature and do it in a way. It doesn't have to be a scheduled Lake and Wildlife event. So bring your ideas to one of the leadership within Lake and Wildlife. If you've got something you're working on, we'd love to hear about it, to encourage you in those efforts, to support those efforts and make sure it's well connected. So we are going to get a sign up somewhere. We got to figure out where we're putting it on the golf course in acknowledgement of the Bluebird Trail, so people can know it's there and look for it and appreciate it more, and appreciate Sally and Jerry for all your work through all these years. You guys are the best. All right. Did you want to say anything, Jerry? Nope. Okay. You have questions?
Okay, I have been feeding bluebirds mealworms. I have a tray for them. They love them. I have 2 males and 2 females that come, but I'm wondering, what do they eat during the winter? They're here year round. I thought they were insect eaters.
That probably is a good question. And if I have that question or any others, I usually go over to Cialis and ask them what they eat. I put the dried mealworms out there now.
Oh, yeah.
In the wintertime, and they're out there every day.
Yeah, one observation I've made is that one of the males likes one female and he doesn't like the other female. He chases her away. So I think obviously the one is his mate, and he talks to her, he kind of sings to her a little bit. The other one, he doesn't like her. And then I wonder, how can you tell them apart?
Right. I think he knows.
They know.
I think he probably has figured out a way.
Huh?
What is the lifespan?
According to ChatGPT,
Wait a minute. We have an answer. What?
yeah, according to ChatGPT, bluebirds, when insects are scarce, they mostly eat fruits and berries instead.
Okay, maybe the
So,
beauty berries.
And
Maybe
we've
the beauty
seen
berries.
Recently, around our house, the holly trees the berries are starting to ripe on them, full of robins, just half a dozen at the time. And I'm sure bluebirds have been through there doing the same thing.
Yes. Some of the berries that don't get eaten until there's nothing else left to eat. So they may be not that great, but they'll suffice, right? Huff, you had a question?
What is the lifespan of a bluebird?
Well, I think something that I had read was that after a year, 50% of them are gone.
Yeah.
They do have predators.
The reason I ask is I wonder, because I had bluebird watches on our farm, and we loved them, and the children, I'd hold them up and all that. But I was wondering, would the fledglings then come back and compete with the parents for the same nest that they were fledged in? Probably not if the lifespan is that short.
I know they do come back to help with, babies that come after them.
Yeah.
Because the parents will rebuild, and then they'll still have these other fledglings because they may build 3 nests
In the same year you're talking
in the
about, yeah.
same year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
That's nice.
they have a better chance if they're in our trail, they have a better chance of surviving that first year. Because if they do get into like a cavity in a tree, you've got a better chance of ants and things like that that can get to them, and raccoons everybody's hungry out there. So they're all looking, especially at night.
Especially the deer.
So,
I found that, as you mentioned, putting a bluebird box on a tree is not nearly as successful as standalone on a pole,
yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
And we had flying squirrels
Oh, yeah.
actually
Well-
took over some of those boxes.
Yeah, and chipmunks will go up,
Yeah, exactly.
and possums, and everybody's out there wanting dinner.
Right.
So, and I actually think that as they get older and there's more smell coming out of that box, that the others can sense that they're in there. And, because the 2 times we had a snake, they were almost adults that they went in there after.
Larry, you have a question?
Comment, we have, on our front porch, we have posts, and so we have a bluebird box there, and we can be like 3 feet from them, looking through the glass. And then on our back porch, we have, our back door is totally glass, and we have a post, and so we sit in a chair, we can use our cell phones and photograph them.
Oh, that's great.
They feel real protected, that
Being close to the house and.
Yeah, they don't mind.
Any critters coming after them.
Good.
we do feed mealworms.
Mealworms. That was another thing I read on you're a real bluebirder if you have live mealworms in your refrigerator. I was like, oh, that's a step up. What enough? You do? Okay, right.
But they do like the driving essays.
Yes.
Everybody does. All the other
We
birds.
have one more question here?
Sally, would you tell us what you do to clean the birdhouses out?
I usually, I try to get them cleaned out as soon as possible. As I'm coming around, I kind of have an idea when they're going to be going, because it's usually, I think, about 17 days. So as I'm coming up around 17 days, I know I could find an empty nest box there. And I have a bottle of bleach and maybe like 10% bleach and then water. And then I do have to use sandpaper because a lot of times there'll just be poop all over the place, squirting out on the walls, And so the sandpaper takes that away, and then I get the bleach and spray it, and then I'll probably just leave it open for about a day and let it dry out.
I have read in the past to use food grade diatomaceous earth.
I do
to
use,
put in nesting boxes. So
yeah,
as the
I do
face-
use that. It can, I do see some ants occasionally, and let's see, what are those other things that are crawling, what do you call them? What are those things, Jerry? Those other little bugs?
I can't hear you.
What other little bugs do you see besides ants?
Earwigs, is it earwigs?
Yeah,
Earwigs. And so, yeah, so I often will do that. I check the bottom of the nest, and once the nest is finished, I may just put some DE down there in the bottom. So if anything comes crawling up in there, that kind of, I think it cuts their bodies in some way or another.
Yes,
Is that what it does?
yeah, yeah. It's very sharp and spiky.
Yeah. It doesn't look sharp, but I guess it is.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to wrap up, and if y'all have other questions, I'm sure Sally and Jerry would be glad to one-on-one talk to anybody who has other questions for a few minutes. Is that true?
Sure.
Yeah. But again, thank you, Jenny, for sharing your experiences. Sally, Jerry, you guys are the best.
Thank you, Dara, for putting this together. This is a great panel, great discussion. Jenny, thank you very much for all you do. We appreciate it. We're gonna give you some support and help you out. But don't everybody call her at once, right? Thank you very much for coming today. Enjoy the weekend. Have a good week. See you next.